Okay, so hi guys. So welcome to this first video I'm creating in my Learn Python series, I guess. This might be the only video as well, so anyway. So I already have my IDE set up right here. I've created my Python file, and I have a configuration. So I'm all ready to start typing code. Now the first line of code usually used in a new programming language is hello world. So with Python being no exception, I'm going to show you how to do that. So how you want to start this off is with a print statement. Now, print is a very powerful command. What it does is it prints things to the console. So whatever you want it to be printed, basically it displays it on the console, you put inside the print statement in quotation marks, which make it a string. So since we want to say hello world, we type hello world. Now the cool thing about Python is, unlike other coding languages, you don't need a set, in case I'll put that there to just show it's wrong. So now that we have our code, we're gonna run it by just pressing the little play arrow, and right here it prints out hello world. So you're probably like, okay, this is cool, but what else can we do with Python? So I guess I'll start by just introducing some basic variables. So let's think of maybe another way we could print hello world. So I'm going to start off with creating a variable. Now I'm just going to name this variable A. And what variables are, they're essentially a storage location from data. So A can store our value hello world. So we can just comment out, we can either delete or comment this statement out. And how you comment out code in Python is just by a simple hashtag symbol. And now let's say we just want to print our value A that stores hello world. So all we have to do is print and then A, and then that's hello world is printed. Now you probably were wondering, okay, so why isn't A in quotation marks? So let's see what happens if we put A in quotation marks. It prints the string A. So the difference between how we earlier printed hello world in quotation marks and printing A in quotation marks is hello world is a string. And if you put a string inside a print statement, it's just going to print out that string. Now, if you just put A, because A is a variable and hello world is stored inside of our variable, it just prints hello world. Okay, so we've said hello world now using variables and strings. So you're probably thinking, okay, what other data types are there in Python that we can use? So we can also use integer values. So let's say we, again, want to reassign a value to A. Now this isn't a very good coding practice to keep on reassigning your values of variables. Usually, you want to just create a new variable for each one of your for each thing it stores. But let's say in this instant, we're going to store the value 1 inside of A. Now we can print A again, and let's see what this prints. It prints the string 1. Now, let's create a value called B. And we'll say B is equal to 2. Now, we can perform mathematical operations with the values A and B. So let's say we want to create another variable, and we'll just call this variable C. So we can set C equal to A plus B. And now, let's say we want to print, C. What do you think C is going to print? It prints 3 because it is printing A plus B. Now this is very important for you to remember. When you're printing this value, you are printing a string value and not an integer value. Because values, unless you convert something, it automatically gets printed as a string. So let me try to see what I mean by that. Or let me try to show you what I mean by that. So in Python, we're going to start with declaring a value called num. In Python, there's this cool thing called input, which is used to get user input. So we're going to start with input and then say enter a number. Okay, there's a nice statement right there. And let's say what we want to do is we want to add 2 to that number. So we can declare a variable called add2, and we can just say num plus 2. Now, this code might not give you the value that you're expecting. And so let's run it and see what happens. Okay, enter a number. Sure, we'll enter number 3. Oh, see, we get this error that says only can concatenate string to integer, not string. Now you're probably wondering, what the heck does this mean? So I'll explain it. Since we get our input as a string and it's printed out to the console as a string, you can't add a string plus 2. So let me just comment this out for a second. You can't just say hello plus 2. You can't add a string to an integer. Again, we'll do answer. Again, you can't add a string to an integer. So the way we can fix this is by converting our input from a string to an integer. And it is actually fairly easy to do this. So what we want to do is, since we want to convert it to an integer, we'll put our int in front of our input and say enter a number. Now we're going to continue with the same code we had earlier, add 2, num plus 2. And then what we'll do is we'll print out add 2, so that way we can display whatever value our add 2 would print. So we'll run this again, enter number. Okay, we'll say 3 again. 5. Because now that we have an integer, our code is adding 3 plus 2, which is 5. So, and let's say we'll assign string, and we'll say input, enter a string. And we'll say, how about we want to print that string plus hello. So we will say, how about this? Hello, we'll declare a variable called hello string, and we'll say hello string is equal to our string plus the string hello. And then we'll want to print out hello string, that way our result is displayed. And I just spelled that wrong. Okay. Enter a number, I probably should have commented that out. Enter a string. Okay, so I'll give a name, Bob. Bob, hello. Or I guess I should have done hello, Bob. But either way, since string are of the same data type, you can just concatenate those together, which is adding string plus hello. So that's why that gives us an error, so let's say we converted this to an integer. We wanted to see what would happen. Okay, so it's going to, of course, run the same code we had earlier, and then enter a string. We're still going to enter hello, because, we'll still enter Bob, because Bob wants to say hello. Now, it gives us an error, because, again, you can't combine different data types. Okay, input, oh yeah, okay. So, we now know about let's learn about maybe some more types of data. So, we've seen integers, we've seen strings. Now, you're probably wondering, what if you want to print, or what if you need a number that's between 2 and 3? Well, there's this data type called float, which are decimal numbers. So I'm just gonna and if you want to do multi-line comments in Python, which this isn't supported by all, I guess this isn't technically official Python. It's not supported by all IEDs, but what you can do is the 2 sets of quotation marks right there, and I'll just copy and paste all this code. And now that this is all comments, it won't run. Okay, so again, we can use floats to store decimal values. And, oh, I just called this float. We can call this A. And now we can say print A. And it will print 2.3. Okay, so now that you know your 3 types of data, or 3 of the types of data, maybe you're thinking, okay, so what if I want to just print out the type? So you can say print type and then A. And since it's a float, it says class float. Now you can do the same thing for strings. So let's say we want to assign the string 2.3 to B. We can say print type B. And so what do you think this will print? It prints class string because it's a string. And the same thing works with integers. So if we want to assign B to the value 2, and we said print type B, it would print class 2 because it's an integer. Okay. So just a simple recap. I'm going to try to keep this to 10 minutes, and I will probably continue this. But as a simple recap, you went from knowing almost no Python to knowing what variables are, what different types of variables are, and how you can concatenate strings, and how you can use integers and the input function. Now, here's a simple challenge. Create some code that takes a name as input and then that says hello and takes a name as input. Okay, so you can think about that, write that code, and here I'm going to show you the solution. So I'll start out with declaring a variable called hello name, and I'll get the input. I'll ask what is your name? Okay. And then what we want to do is we want to concatenate the string hello with the string name. So we'll say, I'll just call this variable name. And then for hello name, we'll set that equal to hello plus our name. And let's print out hello name and see if it gives us the desired output. What is your name? My name is Bob. Hello, Bob. There we go. Now you have just written your first program in Python.